Good morning. How are you today? My name is Praise. Well, welcome to another episode of PFthinks. Well, today is day two, okay, episode two, and I'm excited to be with you today. Now, I'm so excited that Sam Obafemi has challenged me to do this for the next 1 year, and I hope to keep in touch with you every day. Now, today, I've titled this Liberate Your Soul. Now, I'll give you an example of, a story that happened. There was a particular year I was flying from Atlanta to, I think, New York or Atlanta to Houston or something like that. Now, it was a strange experience for me because it was a life defining moment for me and it defined whosoever I have become today. Now, I was on that trip and, I just decided to, my ticket was economy on American airspace. So I just decided to, oh, okay, I can upgrade to, the business class, So I upgraded myself just to experience and have a feel of what it was. Of course, business class on American airspace is not totally different from business class in Nigerian airspace, It's just that you sit in front and, so I did that. And by the time I upgraded myself and I sat, I realized that there were just two of us. Now, but as people were boarding, I noticed that the plane was packed of filled with Japanese and Chinese. Now, there was a young man who walked in, whom I've tracked all my life. For so many years, I've tracked him online, right? I've seen his innovation and what he's doing across the globe. The guy, by all standard, was a billionaire. I recognized him, and I walked up to him, to quickly greet him. And I noticed that he didn't sit at the business class; he went to sit at the economy. So I started thinking with him. I said, Praise, what are you doing here? You are not even a billionaire. You are not a millionaire in dollars. What are you doing here? Right? Then, as we began to fly, I started having an inner conversation. I usually have an inner conversation, and the Spirit of God within me is what I call maestro. So most of the time when people hear me talk about maestro, I talk about the Spirit that speaks to me within me. Now, so I began to challenge maestro, or challenge God and say, why is it that those of us who say we are Christians, we are believers, we are your children, we are not innovating? Look at this guy. This guy is not born again by my standard. But look at this guy, he's a billionaire. What am I doing here? As a matter of fact, I was feeling embarrassed for myself, but I had to just put up a bold front. Then, as I began to question, God within me, then I felt an impression, and I know the way he speaks to me, and the impression I felt was he just started laughing at me, and there were two things he said. He said, "Seest thou a man diligent in his business? He will stand before kings and not on them." And so I said, no. He seest thou a Christian? He said, no, seest thou a man? Right? So he must first be a man, which means he must, be legal on the human space. Man is the word humanity expressed in two gender, male and female. Then diligent in his business, which means his diligence is visible. Then he has found his business, right? So there are three equations there: man, diligence, his business. Not just any business, because the problem with many of us is we are diligent in business that has no bearing with our business. Your business can be to serve someone. It's your business. You have to be diligent there. But a lot of us don't even know what we want for our life. We don't know where we ought to go. We are diligent in the wrong thing, and there is nothing as tragic as doing good things which are not right. You are diligent in something that is good, but which is not right for you. So I can be diligent, for example, as a traffic warden, right? It may not be right for my destiny or where I want to go. It doesn't mean it's a bad job, but it may be someone else's business, right? So a lot of us have not identified our business. So if you check that equation properly, the first thing you need to find out is, are you a man? So which means, do you embody humanity? Now, I'm going somewhere, just follow me carefully. Number two, have you found your business? Right? Your business is actually what you were created to do. Now, number three equation, are you diligent in what you have created to do? Because many of us are distracted trying to mind other people's business. The only business you never mind is your own business. The second thing he said was the hand of the diligence bears rule. Right? So, seest thou a man diligent in his business? That was indefinite article. The other one was a definite article. The hand of the diligent bears rule. So, which means the man who is diligent will bear rule, right? So I just started crying. And he began to talk to me and he said to me, every time I want to innovate anything on the planet, because every time there is a problem on the planet and humanity begins to complain, I interpret it as prayers to me. And that was when my definition of prayer changed. He said, then when that prayer gets to me, so for example, when people begin to complain that, oh, cars are having accident, it's 10 hours to go to Abuja, God will interpret it as prayers. Then he begins to look for someone who can ask the same question so that he can baptize his mind with innovation. He said, so I began to look around the globe, and the so-called people call themselves my people. By the time I get to their table, they are not there. It's either they've gone for one program or the other that has no bearing with their lifestyle or their business or where I want them to go. And because my purpose must stand, I begin to scan the hearts of men. And so I look for that art that is liberal. Let me shock you. The word liberal is the word liberated, which means it begins to look for a heart, someone who is asking questions. So there's a guy in China, there's a guy in India who is asking the question to say, why is it that we have to spend 10 hours to go to Abuja? Why can't we shorten this journey? Is there an innovation we can create that can make life easy for humanity? Now, that thought in his heart, inner discussion, will, of course, because God is the creator of all flesh, is the God of all flesh, is the creator of heaven and earth, he has access to everyone's mind. He has not created any man that he can't have access to. So what we try to do is to exclude other people and say God cannot reach them. That's not correct. Now, he finds the heart of that man and he plants innovation, suggests an idea, because has it happened to you before that you want to create something, and while you have an idea of a business you want to do, and while you were still thinking about it in your heart, and ruminating over it and doing analysis over paralysis, and whatever, then suddenly you turn on the TV and realize that someone has done it. And you begin to say, oh, they stole your idea. No, they didn't steal your idea. That was when I understood the fact that God puts idea on a frequency in response to the fastest finger. That the first person to pick the idea and runs with it is the owner of the idea. So there are times that you have thoughts in your mind, why can't we innovate this? But you don't take it to the next level. But that guy is spending all night thinking about it, and because he's been prepared, his heart is liberal. What he does is he goes to work and work on that innovation or that invention. By the time he's done working on that invention, right, it becomes a product or a service. The next thing is the people who we call ourselves God's people, then we now begin to trust the same God to be able to afford the same invention that someone we say doesn't know God has invented. Then when we afford it, then we testify about it. As Mastro began to explain that to me, I wept all through that trip, and it changed something totally about me. That the liberal soul is what will be made fat. Now, what is fatness? Fatness means the capacity to be able to reach the entire world. So here is a problem. There are groups of people on this planet. There is someone who is trusting for invention that can make the world a better place. So someone is looking around right now, doing combination, having sleepless night, looking for funding for a vaccine that can cure coronavirus. Someone else is sitting down and just wishing it away. Truth is, one is diligent, the other person is not diligent. Now, God will give that invention to the person whose heart is liberal. Because once your heart is not liberal, there's a limit to the level of innovation that you can access. The problem with many of us is if God gives us certain invention, we will exclude humanity. God told Abraham, through you, all the families of the earth, not all through you all Muslims or through you all Christians, through you all Buddhism. No, through you all the families of the earth. The biggest problem of humanity that I found is our heart cannot accommodate all. Our heart can accommodate our sect. Our heart can accommodate, our family. Our heart can accommodate our friends. But our heart cannot accommodate humanity. So even though we start a business and, we call it, praise for global, worldwide, our heart cannot accommodate the world. And there are tests that shows up around us to prove that we cannot accommodate the world. So, for example, you live in Nigeria and you heard the news that 10,000 people have died of corona in Italy. What is your default response in your heart? Are you filled with compassion, right? Or You are just saying, I thank God I'm in Nigeria. Once you say you thank God that you are in Nigeria, it means you have qualified the people in Italy as a victim of circumstance. They are on their own. You have excluded them from humanity. So the kind of innovation and solution that can come to you will be limited to your country. Right? Even within your country, when you hear there's a bomb blast in Zamfara and 10 Muslims or 20 Muslims or killed, and your default response in your mind is, I thank God I'm a Christian. You have to create an innovation for the entire Nigeria because you are thinking within your sect. Now, here is the bigger problem. Now, you heard that armed robbers went to a church that is another denomination from yours and they killed people there. And your default response is, I thank God that I belong to this ministry. The God of this ministry has exempted me. Then you disqualify yourself again to be able to even innovate for the body of Christ that you say you belong to. Can you see the state of our heart? That if your heart is not liberal, you cannot be made fat. That when what happens in Kuwait is not getting into your heart, you cannot innovate because it told the families of the earth. God knows if he gives you innovation for all the families of the earth, you are going to disqualify them or pre-qualify them. I mean, if he gives you Facebook, for example, you are going to tell us before we join Facebook, are you Christian or Muslim? If you are Muslim, you cannot join. It does if you are Christian. If you are Muslim, say if you are Christian, you cannot join. You will now say, okay, if you now want to join, you need to pay $50,000 to join. You are going to exclude the rest of the world. God knows that your heart is not large enough to contain many of the things you're... sorry, there was a network problem in there. So there are so many of us trusting God for global breakthrough. But your heart is not global. Your heart cannot accommodate the entire globe. So if you don't become liberated, so the liberal soul is the word liberated. If you are not liberated from your mind, from the barriers that have separated humanity of, Christians are superior to Muslim, Pentecostals are superior to Orthodox, this our church is superior to that church, this our tribe is superior to that tribe. If you don't liberate yourself from that mentality, you cannot become a global citizen. And once you are not a global citizen in your mind, the rest of the world, because he knows there is no man that is the richest man in the world that was not given by God. Because God knows the capacity of our hearts. He knows if we make this man the richest man in the world, he will create solution for the rest of the world. He will not pre-qualify people before he's able to reach out to them. Some of us, our mind is too small to accommodate humanity because we think our tribe, we think our race, we think our religion, we think our sect, we think our family. So you can see what is happening during the coronavirus in Nigeria, right? A lot of people say they are hungry, but they are looting people. Now they are actually behaving the way many of our politicians behave because our politicians know more than they steal what they don't need, right? A man who is very poor, not in pocket, not because they don't have food in their house, a man who is mentally poor will go and steal what he does not need. I mean, if you go to Owambe parties in Nigeria, or if you're listening to this outside of Nigeria, you go to a party and they're distributing souvenirs. You see people fight over souvenirs that they have in their house. They have enough coolers, but they are still fighting for cooler in parties. They are still fighting for meat in parties. It's a poverty of the mind. Now, how do you innovate when you can't think the globe? How do you innovate for Italy when you are happy that you are in Nigeria and Italy is dying? How do you innovate for UK when you are in Nigeria? No, through you, all the families of the earth shall be blessed. What I always tell people is this: everything you want in must pass the test of God and the test of humanity. What means is if you check every God's product, it will pass the test of humanity, which means it must be usable for everyone on the planet. Medical invention is no respecter of whether you're Christian, Muslim, whether you are Hindu, whether you are Yoruba, Hausa, Igbo, whether you are Caucasian, whether you are it's no respecter. It will serve the interest of everyone. So let's check God's product. God made the sun. The sun shines on everyone across the globe, including those who don't even believe in God. The moon shines on everyone. Doesn't pre-qualify before he gives you oxygen. God doesn't pre-qualify before he allows you step on the ground. God doesn't pre-qualify before he gives you water. So whatever you want to innovate that cannot pass that test that's usable for the entire human race will limit you, will restrict you, because it means that your soul is not liberated. So when people say, I am very rigid, it means your soul is, you live at the black or white, but there are shades that you cannot see that God sees. All those. So this morning, what you need to do is to liberate yourself from the mind. Is called heart failure. So it means that blood cannot flow through you to the rest of humanity. Oxygen cannot flow through you to the rest of the world. So you can't think the world. You can't feel the pain in Haiti. You can't feel the pain in Iraq. When you see the news on CNN for the covenant of exemption, not knowing that even what is dealing with you, your mind is so small that you are even in prison. So this morning, liberate your soul. The only one tribe that exists is tribe humanity. Begin to feel the pain when 1,000 people dies in Cambodia. Begin to feel the pain. I mean, you want to pray, God, let my heart that God is not excited when Corona kills people in the UK, kills people in Italy, sit in Nigeria and be rejoicing. It means our soul is so small, and that's why the level of innovation that can come to us will be limited. It cannot serve the rest of the world. We will never innovate to the tune of Facebook, to the tune of Instagram, to the tune of WhatsApp. We will never be able to innovate at that level if all we think about is, I thank God I am free. I thank God I am not in Zamfara. I thank God I am not in Borno State. The people are dying there. And once you become moved by the things that move others, once you become moved by the things that move God and by the things that move humanity, then you are qualified for global innovations. At that level, you won't even need to pray again, because God knows that you have moved from ownership to stewardship, where you are resources, and God knows He has placed in your heart can serve humanity. You don't look down on people who belong to your denomination. You don't look down on people. Corona is teaching us right now there is no respect of Christian, Muslim, is no respect of Yoruba, Hausa, is no respect of any tribe, any race, any religion. At the point of life and death, we all realize how similar we are. So think humanity, think globalization, think of the globe, think of what moves people. Begin to ask God for innovation that can solve the problems of the world. Thank you so much for joining me today. Everyone who has joined, my Egbon Kingsley, thank you very much. Mama Yeti, Temi Tokpe, were the first to arrive today. Moji Sola, Christy, Oluwa Fumilayo, CD. Hey, my brother, how is Canada? Emmanuel, I'm really, really grateful. I'll come your way again. I intend to do this for 365 days, right? I know I'm going to do it. So please, liberate your mind that can be made far. Thank you very much. Have a